Judge Amelia Hartwell slammed the gavel down with a force that echoed through the courtroom. The room fell silent as everyone waited for her next words. But what came left everyone in shock. Claim dismissed. Judge Hartwell announced coldly, her face unreadable. The evidence presented is insufficient. Sophia, a 16-year-old girl standing in front of the bench, blinked in disbelief. She had spent months preparing for this day, working tirelessly with her lawyer, Mr. Gaines, gathering everything she could to prove her case. Now it felt like everything had been torn away in a single moment. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stood frozen, staring at the judge. But she wasn't going to back down. Not today. Taking a deep breath, her hands shook slightly, but her voice remained steady. I have something else," she said, almost in a whisper. The room fell silent again, all eyes turning to her. Judge Hartwell raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" Sophia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled out her phone, her fingers fumbling slightly as she clicked a few buttons. The courtroom began to murmur, but tension thickened as she tapped play. A buzz filled the room, followed by the unmistakable sound of a conversation, a heated argument between two men. One voice was deep, gruff, and almost unrecognizable, while the other was familiar, her stepfather, Philip. The recording was her ace, the one piece of evidence she was sure would change everything. Philip's voice cracked through the speakers, filled with anger and fear. "You think anyone will believe her? You think you can just waltz in here and turn my life upside down? I won't let her win this. Do you hear me? I won't." The courtroom held its collective breath. Sophia's heart raced as she watched the reactions. People exchanged confused glances. Even Judge Hartwell looked taken aback. "What is this?" the judge demanded, her voice sharp. She wasn't angry, but there was no mistaking her curiosity. Sophia's finger hovered over the phone screen, her eyes locked on the judge's. Steady and determined, she nodded once and pressed play again, louder this time, ensuring everyone could hear. Philip's voice rang out once more, laced with venom. "You think she'll get away with this? Over my dead body. She'll regret ever trying to ruin me." The room erupted into murmurs, whispers spreading like wildfire. Judge Hartwell's composure faltered for a split second, her eyes narrowing as she looked at Sophia. "Enough," she ordered, though her voice carried a note of unease. "This court needs a moment to review this new evidence." But before anyone could act, the courtroom's lights flickered and went out, plunging everyone into darkness. Chaos broke out. People shouted over one another, trying to figure out what had happened. Sophia's phone buzzed in her hand. The screen illuminated her face as she saw a message from Mr. Gaines. "Don't trust the judge. She's involved. Get out. Now." A chill crawled up her spine. She clutched the phone tightly, her pulse pounding. Was this really happening? How could Judge Hartwell be involved? What did it all mean? Before she could process it, the lights flickered back on. The room was in disarray. Judge Hartwell's face was pale, her usual confidence shaken. Mr. Gaines hurried to Sophia's side. "Sophia," he whispered urgently, "you've done well, but this is bigger than either of us thought. We need to leave." Sophia's voice trembled. "What does the judge have to do with this?" "Later," Mr. Gaines insisted, his tone clipped. "Right now, we need to get you to safety." Judge Hartwell's gavel slammed again. "This court is adjourned for an hour," she announced, though her voice lacked its usual authority. "Everyone, clear the room." The gallery emptied slowly, people whispering and speculating as they filed out. Sophia hesitated, her feet rooted to the ground, until Mr. Gaines gently nudged her toward the exit. "Move," he urged, his voice low but firm. "Now." They stepped into a dimly lit hallway outside the courtroom. Sophia's heart raced as Mr. Gaines led her toward a side exit. "What's happening?" she demanded. "What aren't you telling me?" Mr. Gaines hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "The recording you have," he began, "is dangerous. It's not just about Philip. It's about a network of people who have everything to lose if this comes to light. Judge Hartwell might be part of it. We can't trust her." "Sophia." "Not yet." Sophia's stomach churned. "What kind of network?" she asked, her voice shaking. We're talking about corruption. Mr. Gaines replied. Money, power, control. The kind of people who don't care about collateral damage. And now they know about you. The weight of his words hit her like a punch to the gut. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. Leave the building now. You're being followed. Sophia showed the message to Mr. Gaines, her hands trembling. What does this mean? His face hardened. It means we're out of time. Minutes later, they were outside, the cool evening air hitting Sophia's face. Mr. Gaines hailed a cab and shoved her inside, climbing in after her. Where are we going? She asked, her voice shaky. To a safe house, he replied. Somewhere they can't find you. The cab ride was tense and silent. Sophia's thoughts raced. Who were they? How deep did this conspiracy go? Her stepfather had always been controlling. But this was something else entirely. And Judge Hartwell? The idea that she could be involved was almost too much to process. When they arrived at the safe house, a modest apartment tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, Sophia felt a sliver of relief. But it didn't last. Her phone buzzed again. They know where you are. Don't trust Gaines. Her blood ran cold. Could she trust anyone? Was Mr. Gaines lying to her? The man who had supported her, guided her, and stood by her side now felt like a stranger. She tucked the phone away, her mind spinning. Hours later, as the night deepened, a knock at the door shattered the silence. Mr. Gaines motioned for her to stay put and approached cautiously. Sophia's heart pounded as she heard muffled voices. The tension was unbearable. When Mr. Gaines returned, his face was grim. Pack your things, he said. We're leaving. Now. Why? What's happening? Sophia asked, panic rising in her chest. They found us, he replied. We have to move before it's too late. From that moment on, Sophia's world became a blur of safe houses, cryptic messages, and narrow escapes. Each day brought new revelations about her stepfather's crimes and the powerful people protecting him. The network was larger than she'd ever imagined, and its reach seemed limitless. But through it all, Sophia refused to give up. The recording in her possession was more than evidence. It was a weapon she vowed to use to bring down the people who thought they were untouchable. As the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, one thing became clear. This was no longer just about her. It was about justice, truth, and ensuring that no one else would ever have to endure what she had. The fight wasn't over, but Sophia was ready. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful, determined, and unbreakable. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it head-on, because the truth was worth fighting for, no matter the cost.